Good afternoon, everyone. How's it going out there? Welcome back here to a Friday. Finally made it out here to the weekend. It is 12:32 p.m. California time. September 5th, 2025 is the date. 4.1 earthquake up across the Alaska area. The Aleutian Trench out there is starting to stir back up. The latest quake there on the globe. Over the last week or so, we've seen a number of earthquakes out here across the Aleutian Trench. Leading me to believe here that we're not quite done with some larger adjustment out here. Now, there's an area south here along the Gulf of Alaska that could be potentially overdue for some larger movement, and more so than this little seismic gap zone. But as always, these seismic gap zones, when they're quiet like that, and a little bit of time has passed, that could always be an option as well for some larger movement. But definitely watching the entire Aleutian Trench out here. It's been super active in the last couple months, and definitely within the last week. There's earthquake activity up around Mount Rainier to the west, and also some at Mount St. Helens. Got a number of earthquakes out there, including some more from last night. Let's go ahead and dig into the seismograph station here real quick. By the way, tremor activity yesterday, 224 epicenters, mainly across the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. That's slow slip events, not volcanic tremor in any sense, but slow slip between the two plates there. All right, up at Mount St. Helens, let's see if we can find those couple earthquakes that stirred up overnight. See if the station's working. It is definitely. Looks like there's some more out there this morning. The last quake showing up about 7 o'clock this morning or so, 7:08 for a negative 0.2. Now, 7 o'clock this morning, that's going to be this quake right here. It's just a very small earthquake, as to why they put a negative on it. There was one last night down to the south here, a little 0.4, a little bit larger. That was at 2358, so we have to go back here. No, we don't. Right here, 2358. It's going to be this one right here. Now, that earthquake was a little bit further away, but a little bit larger. I'm a little uncertain on if these are really actually negative type quakes, because there's it looks fairly large here on the seismograph station. There was at least 4 of them here, 5 of them. And the majority of these that they're showing are indeed very small negative quakes here. There's this one from last night about 9 o'clock. Let's see, that says 0.2, not with a negative. That's at 9:43. 9:43 is going to be... Well, where's that at? 9:43 would be somewhere in... here in the 2100 time period. Here's 22. That wouldn't be 9:43 though. So if 2200, I don't see it. That's what's odd. Maybe this one right here. You guys see that little blue spike? That would match the time frame of 9:43 in the PM here. But how come, if that one's registering a larger event at a 0.2 at that size, what about all these other ones that are kind of being recorded as a negative, meaning smaller than that one, but it's showing up larger here on the graph? It could have something to do with the depth of the earthquake, but I don't know. There's still definitely some earthquake activity showing up here, and a little uncertainty on if those are actually the correct magnitudes or not that they're showing. Either way, it's definitely showing up. That's at Mount St. Helens. If we go check out Mount Rainier real quick, see if we got anything stirring up out here today as far as earthquake activity goes. And yeah, definitely. That's got to be a legit earthquake. That's definitely a localized event. Let's go see what we got up here, see what's being reported. Most of the earthquake being reported is from last night. Nothing today, nothing around the area. But these events are this morning. That is about 10:20 or so this morning. There's another event happening between 9 and 10. There's definitely earthquake activity out here, but these are probably below the 2.5 threshold, probably even below the 2.0 area. But there's still earthquake activity occurring out there across Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier, down there across Mount Hood. I'll go check that out real quick as well, because that's been a little hot spot of activity as well. This is a Palmer Lift, which always shows interference. So let's see if we can get this one to work. Yeah, this one's out of whack as well. About 7 o'clock this morning, it looks like some noise came on there. Let's go back here to maybe this station here, see if this is working. Yeah, that one's out of whack too. It's just really can't see anything showing up there. I don't think there's anything of major interest going on. Let's check the Palmer Lift one again. See if it's... this one's actually working decent, except for this noise. What looks like a little bit of earthquake activity out there, right? Unless those are ice quakes again, like they're stating. I don't know. A little weird. Either way, we'll continue to watch that and report back on anything that changes out there. Northern California, a bunch of activity here from yesterday. A couple more this morning. Got at least 3 of them. The latest, a 2.4, 18 miles deep underneath this area of the Trinity National Forest. That is associated with the Cascadia subduction zone. Now, the interface of it, where the plate begins to subduct, it starts over here. The locked area sits inland on the map a little bit, but this is deeper underneath the region. Like a couple of these other earthquakes here yesterday, fairly deep underneath the region. And that's due to the tremor activity out here, specifically underneath this region of Northern California. The slow slip events are a sign that the Juan de Fuca plate over here, this plate right here as a whole, is further being shoved underneath the North American plate here. Now, the tremor activity is occurring roughly right around this area where the earthquake activity is being reported. So that tells me things are getting strained. They're starting to crack and pop, so to speak, across this area of Northern California. The southern end here of the Cascadia subduction zone could easily see a partial rupture, and they happen quite regular in between main events. The main event being a full rupture of the Cascadia. So this southern end here could be up around 7.9. It could be up to an 8.2. Gotta watch that. Tremor activity resulting in elevated earthquake activity has been the story out here in the southern end of the Cascadia for quite a bit this year. So we'll continue to watch that. We'll check back on that later this evening for the tremor counts, but still a lot of movement out here underneath this region of Northern California. The Bay Area, a couple earthquakes near San Leandro, a 1.5. That is on the Hayward Fault. Fault system that's definitely overdue. Far as the San Andreas Fault here, got a couple earthquakes this morning as well, and yesterday, 2.2, 1.3, and 1.4. That's just off the creeping section of the San Andreas Fault. Nothing going on here on the San Andreas Fault Parkfield section for now. Southern California is starting to light up out here as well. Looks like a number of earthquakes in the 2 range, 2.2 in Anza, and a couple other scattered smaller microquakes today. Nothing big going on, but we are lighting up out here. West Coast starting to show a little bit more elevated activity than yesterday in the last couple days. Nevada, earthquake activity, looks like it's come to a halt. Remember, I was doing the update last night. We've seen this earthquake come in. Took them a little while to add it, but that was a 3.2 showing up on the seismograph station. The latest quake shows a 2.7 just after midnight, so I don't know. I haven't really been looking at these graphs all day, but I can only assume that there's had to have been some more activity since last night. But that's the latest quake they're reporting. Up into the Yellowstone area, nothing really showing up on the map, but we will double check that. See if anything else is going on up here. Looks pretty quiet. One little earthquake this morning, but that's a super duper small one. Aside from that, no major swarms going on, no unusual activity, just a couple smaller quakes, mainly west of Yellowstone around the Hebgen Lake Estates area. Texas oil fields and Oklahoma getting pretty active. Is this another new quake? Another quake up there in Missouri, near Fenton, Missouri. 2.4 this morning. That been a little active out here recently. That is just outside the New Madrid seismic zone, which is a major area of concern for large earthquake activity. We do have to watch that. For now, though, just a couple smaller quakes in the area. There's that one earthquake from last night in Rhode Island. Nothing new to report out there across the eastern portion of the country. We got a cluster of quakes over here around Japan today. Watch the Nankai Trough. All this clustering definitely adding further strain here across that subduction zone. You can see it quite nicely here on the oceanic crust map. That's a major subduction zone region that last had a series of large events back in 1942 and 1944. There's several fragments here that rupture, although they can rupture all at once. The last ruptures were A and B and C and D, leaving section E out. So that did not rupture in the last sequence of events back in the 40s. Now, that is concerning because looking at the historical data when things like that happen, say it skips a year, skips a section in a rupture, as far as a segment goes, then that means the next potential rupture will result in a full and complete rupture of the, not the Cascadia, the Nankai Trough here. Possibility, because that's been building up even well before 1944 when the last rupture activity took place. So we'll watch that. It had a huge swarm out here recently to the southwest area in the last few months. That has died off. Let me see here. Let me check the map. We got one more earthquake just south along that zone, a 3.1. But this area is highly strained, and this further activity here in this region definitely adding pressurization out there across that Nankai Trough right now. Watch that area closely. The rest of the globe here, movement happening out there across the Indonesia area. Philippines pretty active out there as well. Crunch zone definitely seen some movement. Another 5-pointer out there in Afghanistan just a short time ago, 5.2. These guys just getting rocking and rolling here with a bunch of 5s. The largest quake is going to be the 6.0. There's been a number of 5s out there, probably a little bit more than a normal 6-pointer should produce out here. A bunch of 4s in here as well. No telling how many 3s and 2s. They're just not showing up here on the map. So a little concerning that maybe we're not quite done yet with some larger activity out here. We'll have to watch that closely. New Zealand region, pretty quiet down there today. It's actually our quiet zone down there across New Zealand and Papua New Guinea eastward. Some older activity on the map from yesterday there across the Tonga Trench. We do have another 3.2 and the green flag there coming into the Indonesia area. That's one of the latest quakes in the region. Also some activity on the map here. Northern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. That's a 3.1. The USGS not showing that map. More than likely it's going to be on the Canada site here. So let's go check this out real quick. Well, yeah, there's one actually overnight as well. 4.1 west-northwest of Fort Simpson. Way up in the northern territories up there. The latest quake, though, does show that one little earthquake towards the northern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. Looks like it's on the Pacific and the North American plate boundary. The subduction zone begins right about here southward, of course, all the way down into northern California there. So we'll continue to watch that. A lot of activity stirring up out here today, for sure. Ecuador having a 5.4, pretty shallow earthquake as well. That follows a deeper quake. See this 4-pointer on the globe? That earthquake striking last night at 112 kilometers deep. Subsequent adjustment going on today upstream towards that locked area of the Ecuador Trench. So we may want to watch that region as well. This area can see some big earthquakes. Anywhere up and down the a major subduction zone can see big earthquake activity. Hawaii, a number of quakes out here around the Kilauea volcano and up around Mauna Loa. Getting what looks like a little bit of shallow activity up there. The latest of 0.6. That may stir back up here again. You just never know. Let's go see what's going on there across Hawaii. Here's the Kilauea volcano deformation data real quick, see what we have. Again, we just had an eruption here a few days ago. We have a few days to go before we see a return to an eruption, episode 33, right? We're only partially up a little bit in terms of inflation. We do have a number of days to go before we get even close to seeing another eruption out there, and that is at the Kilauea volcano. I do want to double check the let's see here, Mauna Loa volcano real quick. Kilauea is still sitting at an orange and a watch level, at least according to the map here. Mauna Loa at green. I just want to see with this earthquake activity if there's anything going on here. Here's a tilt meter. That's offline. GPS, yes, that stopped there at the end of 2024. There's a last eruption. Remember that back in the end of 2022? It's pretty neat. We're going up. Not in a big fashion, but definitely going up here. I want to see if I can find something more current. That's the same one, right? Yeah, that's the same one in the area. These can't all be the same thing. Yeah, for whatever reason here, it looks like a lot of the stations are offline. Went off. All of them went offline around the end of 2024. That's not good. This one is, yeah, same deal. Let's check out the northern area here. We don't have any current data. What's going on here? I'll have to look back into that, but that's definitely some interesting activity if it's not reporting anything. There's a couple earthquakes there around the Mauna Loa area. Yeah, it could stir back up. Just never know. We'll continue to keep an eye on that. All right, the rest of the globe out here. You know, some movement down south here where that 7-pointer struck a number of weeks back in the Drake's Passage area. That's kind of looks like an aftershock down there. Atlantic Ocean around the Azores there, a little 2.7 and 1 4.5 way north here of Iceland, right up there along the plate boundary. Pretty active day out here. Of course, the largest quake here in the last 24 hours. That is going to go to the Ecuador quake this morning. 5.4, pretty shallow along that subduction zone. All right, quick glance here at the space weather activity. Well, looks like Kevin's trying to fire up another fundraiser. 2026, 2027, 2028. Oh, okay. Yeah, interesting. If you feel like donating to Solar Ham, go for it. I've recently donated to him, and I thought that was supposed to cover the next few years or so. And then he said he was going offline, taking the site down, and then that changed. So I don't know what's going on here. I do like to use his site, the solarham.com site. It's got a lot of neat information here laid out. Of course, every single one of these images here is from a website, directly from the website, such as this one here from the Space Weather Prediction Center that shows the flaring and whatnot. But it's all embedded nicely in a neat little layout here. I do appreciate that. May consider a donation here for him. Let's see what we got here. Coronal hole number 75 facing us. That could stir up some solar wind stream here in the coming days. Well, it's shooting out high-speed solar wind stream. Now, whether it affects Earth or not or hits us, we'll have to watch. It does look like we do have a forecast here for maybe up to a G1 class storm. Right now, pretty quiet conditions there for the auroras, but possible some unsettled conditions there over the next couple nights. No major solar flares popping off there. Actually, it looks pretty quiet there on the solar flare detection chart. Sunspots, yeah, but kind of knew that was happening. Separation here of the core. This one here is weakening. This one here is weakening as well. We're entering into a little bit of quiet period here as far as solar flaring activity goes. About a 50% chance, maybe even lower for an M flare. X flare probably, I'm thinking probably 5% chance or less. I need to update my forecast here on my live stream, but really nothing major going on aside from potentially some high-speed solar wind stream that will be hitting the planet, possibly. A lot of times, though, we've seen that solar or that southward pointing coronal hole completely miss us. Tomorrow, 56-foot house-sized asteroid coming in here, newly discovered as well, 390,000 miles. I believe that's just outside the Earth-Moon distance, maybe a little bit further. Aside from that, millions of miles for the other asteroids there on the chart. As far as severe weather goes, we do have a slight risk here across a number of states in the east. 2% chance there in green for tornado activity. Watch the skies for that. A little bit of wind and a little bit of hail threat stretching back over here to Texas. Not anything major going on today. Quick glance here at the numerical models. We'll see if anything of tropical nature is coming up here in the forecast. Been watching this area to the south. Well, looks like that's disappeared here. Remember, there's some type of tropical system coming in here to the Gulf or the East Coast. That looks like it's disappeared, but just because it was on there once and then it disappeared doesn't mean it won't come back on the map here as we get closer to that time period. So I'll definitely keep an eye on that. As far as any precipitation goes out here for the country, man, I really wish California were getting some, but it looks drier now out here across the West Coast. We were looking at maybe some rainfall potential coming in next week, but at least we got some cooler temperatures. That is on the forecast here for next week. All right, folks, I'm going to jump off here. Seismograph stations, one little earthquake in Nevada. Doesn't look like it's anything big. Some of the smaller ones are not reporting. Not for sure what's going on up there across Petrolia. Looks like earthquake activity, but it does look a little odd. And the rest of seismograph stations out there are pretty quiet. We'll see how today goes. Enjoy your Friday. We'll see you guys back out here for the Friday evening update. Take care.